Hi everyone, this is going to be a quick one, I believe, and it's just going to look at the media, and probably other stuff might come in terms of the votes and the elections, because as we know, the media can actually either put out everything, or they can filter what they want and keep some behind, or they can manipulate the message they want to deliver with whatever else is going on. And the problem with politics is not like politics doesn't seem to be about finding solutions anymore, and that's the problem with it, because they are supposed to be there to find solutions. So I know I had a comment that the media is a bit of a problem, so I'm going to actually dive into some questions. And I presume when KH or Camel was voted, that some states had a bump up. Like there was initial, like I think if we see a graph, it's interesting, I'm losing my voice. And I don't know why Spirit is brought back to me. Is it Robert Kennedy Jr., whoever? And I think I mentioned him I did mention him in the reading, whichever one, I don't know. I was asking about him and I said there's something about him not voicing, not being at the forefront. Something wrong with his voice as well. Anyway, like there would have been a bit of a spike, a bounce, but I think that's leveling out, all right? I think she would have got some, this is just intuitive, so I might be wrong, right? She would have got some support from females. Like you can break this down per state, you can break it down genders, race, etc. And I think they would have seen a bump up of a win around females. I mentioned in my read prior, I don't think there would have been a bump up in terms of, for example, if we're talking about black race who usually vote for DT or Duck, that they've swayed because it's no longer Biden, now it's someone of a, is she mixed black race? I think she might be mixed race. I don't think that's won black race people over. So if you've not seen my previous reads on Camel, Duck, JD Vance, and also I'm thinking to do one similar to JD Vance for Tim Waltz. What's interesting with him, I saw a picture, you know, where suddenly my YouTube is filled with KH. I hope this is not sensitive, like even initials are sensitive. So I'm going to have to call them our characters. Okay, Camel has selected her, I can't speak and I feel my throat chakra is really swollen. Like, do you know when your tonsils are really swollen? But I feel like it's actually swelling up so much that I can't speak. I'm having difficulty to breathe and I don't understand what's happening right now. So there's some kind of, I'm getting the word manipulation. And maybe this is why I'm just like, okay, let's just do this reading. Because I was thinking, shall I do a vote on Tim Waltz? And I'm getting a really strong headache to my head. So in the last reading, one of the readings I did, I was like, something about playing with the devil. And I've always said, like, a lot of people are, you know, when you're dealing with two things, a lot of people are like, the better the devil you know, and a lot of stuff. But here, I'm being brought back to me, there's a playing with the devil. And I don't really know what energy I'm taking on now, but it's really intense. And my throat is blocking up. But I'm going to voice what I want to say in this reading, hopefully. Give me a moment, sorry. Can you just give me a moment to get an essence? Oh, here we go. So I was going to put a vote on doing, if you want, similar to Tim kind of dynamic. I did do a reading on the interview on Twitter. I believe it was on Twitter, between Duck and Elon Musk. Probably another name that is sensitive. This is not going very well. Okay. But yeah, so I don't know if you're interested in that, let me know. So when it all came on YouTube, she picked someone. I obviously don't know like who would have been the ideal candidate or who people were thinking. But I just got an essence that there's, okay, so when I say stuff like this, it's not that I'm judging that I like it or I don't like it, or negative or positive. I'm just saying downloads that I get that I'm not aware of a person. So for example, when I was doing the Rex Huerman, the Long Island serial K, I mentioned he's got there's some ties there to either, what did I say, Austrian or the sort of like, I didn't say Danish, what is those countries like Iceland, Netherlands kind of area, Scandinavian, but there's another word for them, that kind of Europe. So I mentioned like there's a tie-in with that kind of thing. And here I think Tim has some heritage of a mix where there's a bit of German or something like that. Anyway, I'll do a read. I think it's going to be interesting. But let's get back to this right now. So I think there was a slight peak and then there was a balance out. I do feel, and I know that people wouldn't have liked to hear it if you're a strong Republican voter, that interview on X was a missed opportunity. I'm not saying that it did any negative impact, but I'm saying there was a need to speak on some new things or to really voice something to gain more sideliners. It seems like Spirit was like there was so many sideliners that could have been gained from that interview, or even states where certain areas like rural or urban are a bit conflicted, the win over of that. Or for example, that sort of stuff. So I mean, if you've not liked what I've said, that's fine, but I also have to say true, and I do think that it was an absolute beautiful opportunity where things could have gone very much in a different way. And I think there was a problem with the setup and the way it was done, but then also what was delivered, and I still haven't seen that. But I did have a subscriber who I really appreciate, just the comments because it helps, say that she'd expected more of it. So that's what I got in the read as well. People had expected more of it. I think people were quite excited. So I think the votes at the moment are very close. But let's see. Okay, let's see. Obviously, Robert F. Kennedy, I think he's still very, very, like, I don't think his, which I hope I don't forget saying this, I'm going to write it down because I do think it's happening. That is very nominal. So How are we doing on the votes? And at the same time, though, I do feel like people are still not fully aware of what Camel is bringing in. Like, I've not seen anything, but I can't say that because I just feel like there's a need that they want her to talk more, to understand what she's going to bring. And that's not happening. Now, if we go back to her read and the psychic predictions I mentioned, if there's a Congress or if there's a DMC, it's a new word I've learned, and I had to actually look up what it means. Democratic, what is it? Nomination convention or committee. I probably got that wrong. If that is happening around those dates, it's not actually going to do any positivity. They're not good dates. So if this is happening this week of you seeing this reading, it's not actually a good date. It's not going to sway in her favor. It might not work negatively, but it might even impact the way she delivers or something around that. On the other side, I do think that Tim is someone that might bump up some votes for her, but then also how much voice is he going to have? I just feel like he might be likable by some people. You can let me know if you want that read, and I can tap into him a bit more. So well, let's look at the votes. King of Swords. It's so close to home, so they are close. Let's see if I can pull up something that tells me where the votes are. I think I'm doing a bit better with my voice. It's still a bit all right, but that energy that came over me, that was really bad. And I didn't want to say it, but I know, like, when I did Bully or McCann read, said so many sensitive names in this read, and that's why memberships at the second tier and Patreon is so much easier. I can just speak freely without stopping and then just continue to try and speak, especially as someone I can't just, like, for example, the milking of Jay Slater's case. People have slated the family, but there's one channel or a few crime channels that are just constantly, it's their only stuff that they're putting out. It's kind of like, let the soul rest and don't talk about the family being of exploitation, because you're just doing the same thing. You're actually doing what the platform is asking you to do, which is probably not smart of me. I get that, because obviously I need to try and start to gain the attraction and the following, and at some stage make maybe a month of a couple of quid so that I can buy a coffee or whatever, because that will take time. But what I'm trying to say is to get somewhere in the future, but I cannot milk stuff. There's like, yes, I can pull out and say, and I was thinking to do an energy check-in on the family, but that was just before the funeral. At this stage, I don't want to say anything else. I do believe that there's going to be a Netflix show or something and some streaming. I don't know what else has happened, but it doesn't work in my favor that I just can't be like that. So some stuff that I say, and I think I attract subscribers that are true to their authentic voice as well. And I appreciate that, because I can't sit at a table of phonies. I'd rather you say I don't agree in a constructive way, because I believe in respect for everyone. And I'm going on a tangent. Hang on a sec. Let's get these dates. What am I looking for? Voting. By the way, in the US, what does it mean when, like, for example, I tried to click on where I heard this DMC today, when I was doing the reading, when I was thinking of doing the reading, DMC came up, okay? And I think it was basically that the thumbnail was actually that Kamala and Tim were, or Kamal and Tim were on a, I don't know if it was a couple of minutes together on an interview or something. I didn't actually click on it, but at the end it said it said DMC, so I looked it up. But do they, like, can you check the votes online? Like, is there a website for you? And also, it's interesting, the voting system. You guys have so long, don't you? Like, how many months? When does this close? I know November is it, but you have a very long window to vote. But I presume a lot of people are set in their vote already. It's the ones that have not. So here I'm getting the 8th of, oh, this, I thought this would take forever, but the 8th of August, we have 49% duck, 44% camel, and the rest is Robert. Okay, I've got something to say on that. So it's so close to home. The figures are so close to home. Exactly what I was saying. And I'm not sure, you know, it is causing anxiety. It is causing worry. I think for everyone, not only the public. It's actually causing a lot of up and down on those that have not voted. Again, immigration is coming through. I know in a past comment I had from a subscriber saying in the Global Psychic Predictions, I believe it was, they said that in their state they had, there is a problem with immigration, and I think it was younger army men or something. It seems to be a problem. It comes up in these reads, so I don't know if it's a focus. I felt like it came up in the Trump and Musk read as well, but it's here again. I see it in these cards, and a message from Spirit is here is tend to your own. Don't allow fear and anxiety to get you out of balance, all right, as well. Maybe attend to nature, go to places that ground you if you're getting looped into this too much. So tell me about the votes. Tell me about the votes. Oh. So we don't have a Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, but we have a female, don't we, in the run? And you can see what this is saying. So one more card. There's going to be a lot of manipulation, and this is why I've done the reading and it's just come through. There's going to be a lot of manipulation in the media and also from the other side around Camel. What do I mean by that? Where Camel is losing, the media is not going to be voicing the polls. So here I feel like the people that are actually voicing the polls are the media. Like the pollsters are the media, which is interesting. That's why I asked about do you have a website or something? But it looks like the media are controlling this narrative. Now I was asking how the votes are doing, and Spirit's already moving me into where I wanted to go. But it's the lefters that could have really been won, and I don't know what side that is. But it seems like it's quite a tight toss-up at the moment. And I do think the media are only voicing when it suits them to that KH or the Democrats are in a winning position when it's good for them, which means there is some kind of I knew that, I wish I said it, I was like, I bet it's a Cups card. Emotional manipulation. And I feel some people are going to be, whatever they vote, they're going to be like, I'm not sure I did the right thing. I'm not sure I did the right thing. This tells me that Trump, and we just got it 49%, Trump is in the lead at the moment. There is a lot of pulling on the heartstrings, and I feel that this is around decisions and just in general public trying to be swayed one way or another. Now, I think I said that date of that was the 8th here. So she had like a bounce when she was voted, but I think it's kind of flattening out, and I think both parties really do need to come forward in some kind of way. I was going to ask earlier, one of the things I was going to ask, but I asked another question is, you know, sometimes I see something like in the thumbnail, Kamala 6, Trump 9. What's that mean? Does it mean like 6 states won or 9 states? Or what on earth does that mean? I've got no idea what it means. But there's something here that says go back to the drawing board. So I wonder if the votes at the beginning really show what would take this in one direction, or could be a dominant energy. But there's definitely here a lack of using, you know, the best things you've got to actually win from both sides. Now, if you don't want, so understand this in a way where I'm neutral. If you don't want DT or Duck to win, then I would not say that, because it's kind of like, okay, never mind, but you can't rest in this situation. You need to keep going. And I don't think the bounce is as bad as it looks. So, you know, I just keep going back to the 49-44, which I said, which is true. So let's see. So the media does seem to be biased here. I mean, you can see it for your cards, but let's see a bit more around the media. Are they biased? It's interesting. We get a lot of, you know, cards that mean the end of something. Immigration again is coming up. So I wonder if the media is covering a lot around whoever speaks about immigration is what they're covering. And they're covering whoever they want to put forward in the winning. And they're exaggerating. There's another word with E that I wanted. The other party that's not doing so well. So I think we need to be careful on that. Whoever it is, I'm neutral, right? Okay, like, please. I think there is some biasness here. They need to, okay, so a lot of it's around immigration, a lot of it's around the money and how these people that are coming over, and I mentioned this in the UK read, that are coming over maybe to seek asylum, and it seems like that discussion is taking over. There might be some copying here, you know, bouncing off each other in terms of immigration. I'm not sure if there's some copying, like mimicking, but putting it in different words. But the focus needs to be more on, okay, you know, people may be peed off, I don't know about immigration, but talk a bit about it, but then you need to talk also about health, the healthcare system. You also need to talk about money, jobs, and helping people be able to sustain a better standard of living, whether through benefits or jobs. I don't know if you've got minimum wage over there. And also the opportunities. There's so much focus about overseas stuff here, which is really, really interesting. I also see behind the scenes, there's some things happening around online data that we could hear of. I mean, in Camel's reading, I did get about something around new telecommunications or something, a network coming in. You know, I was just getting some advice for Duck and we got the Tower card, but I just want to put these cards back to get more, but I don't want to disregard it because this is saying if you don't move, right, if you don't move on things, Spirit will need to move you here, Duck. And that's what I'm saying. I think, you know, he's doing really well, but let's solidify an increase in those votes. So that, you know, it is solid as opposed to a possible downfall. Okay, so we got this. Let's just use another deck a moment. I want to go to the traditional. I mean, the cards don't lie. Can you remember yesterday we got the Five of Cups? He needs to leave the past behind. He needs to focus on the new. He needs to leave the past behind. Okay, it seems like he's latched onto quite a bit of what he's already vocalized in the past or in the recent, you know, when he's, a lot of stuff is used that you kind of know what he already has, that he's holding on to, but he needs to let go of that. He also, you know, not necessarily let go and delete it, but move past it onto something new. And there's a holding on here to this. So I wonder if some of it is a bit repetitive. There needs to be an energy of a bit more giving. He needs to be a bit more giving and more charitable. Don't place so much focus on kind of like money or your past kind of messages or what the people already know. Last two cards. This is for the moment in time. We can check later. And I think, you know, hopefully he would have seen that from the interview with Twitter. He's also missing the signs here. So maybe he's getting some signs. Any harsh words that he's had for certain states, certain, I wanted to say sinisters, but it's not sinisters, is it? Sinisters is what is the word? I don't mean ministers. Is it sinisters? Sinisters and governors. He needs to be careful how he talks about those individual states, and also ground his emotions a little bit. Ground his emotions, be a bit more charitable in what he's ready to give and his approach. Okay, let's see what the advice would be at this moment in time for the other party. Pulling from the traditional deck again. So that's a bit shocking, isn't it? That the media will only cover, there's some reversals here, but it doesn't matter. They seem biased. So when like for example, what I'm getting is that if Duck were to say something, it might be like, oh yeah, he's just said it, and it won't be covered. But then if Camel says something and she rewords it, but it has the same meaning, they'll be like, she'll get recognition for it. And I'm not sure if this is happening. This is kind of what I'm getting. And you know what? I've seen this happen even on a level of, for example, you can watch something on one channel and you might watch it on another channel who've done the same thing that first channel did. No one's recognized it, put it in their own way, and sometimes not even in their own way, just regurgitated, and this channel gets the credit, but they're just basically always copying this channel or taking from what this person's saying. It's really annoying. And that's the kind of thing that I'm getting in this energy. And then the media recognizes this one, a bit like what's happening on certain platforms. Let's see opinion for what can, and then I'm going to look into like the donations and the money, or the money being spent on campaigns, and see if I get anything on that. If you liked this, you can give it a like, you can drop in the comments. I think I want to pull some cards and see how Biden is doing, because I think she's going to step in before. I don't know why Spirit's making me hesitant to say this. Like, I forget the election of who's going to win before that, but let's just see the advice right now for the Democrats. Why are they in this kind of juggling? It's interesting. I was going to say judging. They're kind of in this kind of imbalance mode. Should I say this? Should I say that? What should it be? They're focused on the money a bit here, but there's a need to actually... they're caught up in drama, and they just need to move away from the drama of whatever they're caught up in. There's a disconnected feeling, basically. And this is where I think Tim Waltz is going to be bringing that balance in. But there's a disconnected feeling. There's some drama going in, that they're not focused on where this needs to be focused. So they need to get focused. And they need to... really stop throwing the ball between two ways of what to put out there. And also I think there's a need to not focus on others at this moment in time. So clearly there needs to be a voice of what they're actually putting as priorities. Just get the card that fell. You know, this election, there's a lot of these cards. Have you noticed in everyone there's like the 10 of Swords, the 4 of Swords. It's not very good even in the Twitter X. It's kind of like there's going to be real big end to chapters. Things will not be the same. Whether whoever's appointed, they are not the same duplicate that you had once before. And I was hoping this would be the case with Duck, that he tames it a little bit, you know. And a lot is coming up about, I didn't know this about previous 2 SO offences, and so why would you vote for that? But I don't know what the story is behind that, because even some of the things like signing off somebody's documents, I covered this in the conviction reading I did for him. The amount of politicians and famous people that do stuff, and then I won't get into this because it's going to wind some people up, especially on the other side, or think that I think the SO is serious for me, but I don't know what it's actually about. And you've also got on the other side some SA that's happened with a daughter, you know, or I think it's something weird. Grounded emotions. Okay, to be grounded in emotions is really important. I don't know if there's a bit of a burnout here and not looking after oneself, self-care and emotions. Needing to get grounded, needing to step back. And I think tying in with the energies of this week, this is really important, because I think that's going to bring the focus. I think there's a bit of an issue here with somebody's health or burnout, and I'm not really sure if they've done enough campaigns or not. Yeah, can you see this is not looking good? I mean, the other cards were not looking good for what I've pulled, you know, some of the cards that were getting pulled, but like taking time out before you need to really you need to up your campaign, but there's a period where you're going to step in and you really need to make sure that you're on point. There's something hidden here around this, and you might know what I'm leaning towards, all right? There's also a secret here. There's some secret here that's going to have some sort of ending. They're not in balance. There's a lack of balance here. There's something wrong. There isn't a balance. There isn't a balanced approach. Emotions are not in check at this moment in time. And the energies that are around in general right now are not great. I'm going to split the deck one from here. King of Wands. Is Tim an Aries, Leo or Sag? Because I think he's going to bring some balance. But there's something happening here. And I think this is why I said I'll check on blogs. I said his name, but let's try and not say. Before I do that, I thought this was going to be a quick read. I've probably on half an hour. I was like, what I'm going to do is going to be only 10 minutes. Is it going to be worth especially when you're used to me doing long reads. Be prepared, sometimes there might be just 15 minutes. Okay, so we're still recording. All right, so let's just look at the raising money or the money spent on campaigns. So show me oh, he keeps getting this. So, Democrats, okay, I think are spending money on their campaigns. But I'm not sure how much of a benefit it's being for them. What I'm seeing, it's actually not benefiting them. So if they're spending, which I think they are, spending money on the campaigns, like more money, I feel like it's not benefiting them. And I feel like they're doing this because they think things could take a downturn, or they're watching the votes. Like, I feel like they feel like there was a bounce, but now really need to rally up on campaign spending. And I'm not seeing that this is benefiting them to the extent, like, what is happening, they could probably do without spending so much, if that makes sense. So I don't know if they are spending quite a bit more. Then we've got the Republicans, which is very interesting. They seem to be watching and taking on some hidden kind of strategy behind the scenes around money and campaigning, which could ultimately lead in success. So I don't know if they're watching the Democrats, or yeah, if they're watching them, but they are putting a strategy in place around the money. And we've got the Tower again here, which is come out, what, in the last couple of readings? But when we have it reverse, with the Seven of Swords and the Three of Cups here, you're talking about holding on. You're talking about refusing to change things that you're doing behind the scenes, right? There's a refusal to change. There's a refusal to move. There's a holding on to something to avoid a disaster. And there could be a bit of fear here, like a fear of the unknown with a bit of denial energy. With a sense of like, no, we're doing great. It's interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. Let's just take one more card for each one. One card for Democrats. I can see the Temperance card, which tells me they need to balance their approach about it. We've got the Seven of, I was going to say, are they the same? No, we've got the Seven where it's kind of like been waiting for the flourishing, the real bump up around the campaigns, around the votes, right? But it's just not showing. It's not coming through yet. It's not like I said, it's leveling out. So that rise that we were hoping for is not coming through. This, you know, this election doesn't have very good energy around it, does it? I mean, this is what it is when you're dealing with politics. We've got it in reverse. We've got it in reverse. So I think there's going to be a lack of judgment on the outcome. Again, it's a clinging to the past. It's a clinging to the past, and it's not allowing a new transformative energy that could be here. It's kind of like holding on to the past and not changing. So it might also be the idea of celebrating the win of things in front of the media, but in fact, there's a bit of lying to oneself here in the back. But between them, if I were to say, what's showing me more is that the Republicans are more like, there's more of a working together on the campaign and the spending. Maybe like, what do you think, so-and-so, etc. But here with this cards, like I said, I do think a step up would just really do well, because there's a force of destruction here on the borderline, and there needs to be a bump up. So can someone deliver this to your parties here? Okay. Checking on blogs here at this moment in time. So in a week it could change, and at any time it could change. Okay, the date is the 15th of August. It's late evening, so let's say for the current time, and I'm getting over the next 7 days. A lot of internal conflict in his energy. Maybe this could be his mental state, all right, internally. I do get the sense of forgetting stuff, all right. This is blogs, yeah, you know who JB is, blogs, Joe Blogs. I mean, you can see what the last card is, and that's been coming up in the energy. And I'm not surprised because this will govern change, right? I've mentioned what I think in terms of the meantime may happen, and it might just may happen. But there is kind of also a really wanting to continue and step in with new ideas, but confronted with obstacles here. Like Blogs has some ideas and really wants to come forward, voice them, show his sort of stance on stuff. Even I think he wants to put a stance back towards immigration again. What on earth is happening with this? And overseas politics, okay? Overseas politics, and also showing his strength and stance that should anyone think about the US being weak at this moment in time, that is not the case. But it's interesting as he stands here, it's kind of like he's doing it, but it needs to be it's kind of like he's doing it, but he's in red. So it's kind of like the one that can do this, that needs to be said for overseas. And remember when I mentioned about the attempted assassin on the ex-president, I mentioned how, and even in Kamala's reading, previous readings, I mentioned about overseas a lot, right? He is also not probably doing as well as he should health-wise in terms of his healing with the star cards. I do think he is spending a lot of time at home, more so probably with his wife, okay, to try and heal, because it looks like he does need to heal. Like he needs to take care of his health. And you see there we've got that last card. And I think if I were to pull more cards, like 5 or something, I'd probably get the High Priestess or the Moon card. And that might just be that I don't want to delve into predicting maybe what I feel or see beyond what has come out in the cards at this moment in time. But he is wrapping up a chapter in his life. And it might just be sooner. I'm not talking about physical life of being alive only here. I'm talking about even presidentialship, yeah? So he, you know, there's a wrap up of a chapter. And that is something we all know. He does feel a loss of hope, by the way, a loss of faith. And he does feel disappointed that he's had to step down. And I think this is causing a lot of mental anguish for him. I see a lot more of mental issue than physical right now in this week's energy. A lot more around his physical well-being, and he needs to spend more time alone, but also if he can, maybe travel for like a bit of a week away somewhere where he can be grounded. And he might have done recently, I've got no idea. I'm going to take one more card. I've told just take this one. Yeah, he needs to just ground his emotions, show himself love, but also don't be over giving at this moment in time, because he can't. He needs to look where he's putting his energy. If it's unfocused, it's going to deplete him mentally and emotionally. That's what I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this reading. It definitely turned out to be interesting. Probably longer than what I thought. I had just 3 points to discuss. So if you enjoyed it, let me know. Support the political and sensitive reads. Usually that's what most of the readings I do. Just so that it helps. And you know the rest of the stuff. Take care and see you in the next one. I forgot the part I wanted to say in terms of Robert F. Kennedy, right? Jr. What I wanted to say was, I think they might manipulate adding his votes onto camels. Because wasn't he neutral but more Democrats? And they shouldn't do it, but I don't know why I'm getting this. And remember in my, yes, absolutely confirmed. It could be a possibility, because I mentioned this in previously. I mentioned that there could be some manipulation of votes, or you know, you see it going one way, then suddenly there's a turn. And I'm just being brought back to this energy, and I think this reading confirms that absolutely. The whole reading, there's a sudden change in votes because you're not seeing it truly as the journey unfolds from the things I've said. But that was the part that I've said, don't let me forget, I need to say it later. If you enjoyed it, you know what to do. You can also join memberships, Patreon, you can buy me a coffee. If you want any of my services, it's all there. Take care and bye.